So there's a UAW, United Auto Workers Union strike on the big three, which is Stellantis, Ford, and what's the other one? Oh, and General Motors. So Missouri, Michigan, and I believe Ohio. Yeah, so I'm imagining it's probably going to impact the stock, but I don't think it's going to be a bad thing for the stock. Here's why. Right? Oh, before I go into it, this is an AJ Fernandez. I don't know what the brand of this is. It's like an X. AJ Fernandez X, I guess. Doesn't really tell me the name of it. Hoyo. It just says Hoyo. I don't know. Made in Nicaragua. Nicaraguan tobacco is good. I don't like the Honduran stuff. The Honduran stuff is crap. So I try to avoid any type of Honduran tobacco at all. I don't like it. It tastes like crap. It's cheap. It's the cheapest tobacco, other than maybe American grown tobacco. And Honduran tobacco sucks. It's gross. It doesn't have a good flavor. It's just smoky and acrid, in my opinion. So yeah, you got the big three, and everybody, if you watch the news just a little bit, you know that there's a strike going on with them, and I'm not worried about it. And here's why. And I'm a shareholder of Ford, and I have, gosh, let's see, 71 or 81 and a half shares of Ford. And I'm not worried about it, because, there's some people that are wealthy where they got, tons of shares of a company, and, they're worried, when people unionize, the people that have tons of shares are worried that it's going to harm the stock, which it could, but for me, all in all, I don't think it will. And also you're improving the lives of thousands of people, hundreds of people at the very least, maybe thousands, right? And to me, even as a shareholder, there's always a soft spot for union people for me, because like I'm never going to be fully 100% for the company, no matter how much I'm invested into the stock market. Like I'm never going to be 100% with corporate ever, of these companies, and because I'm working class, I'm not wealthy. And I'll show you this little caveat too. So the Ford CEO that I own stock with, or Ford, their CEO, I think it was Jim Farley, which is Chris Farley's, yes, the late comedian Chris Farley. Yeah, that's his late cousin, I think, or something like that, distant cousin. Um, that's the guy who owns Ford, the CEO. His net worth right now, according to the latest, I think it was by Forbes or whatever, or a nonprofit, actually found out that the Ford CEO owns $21 million, or yeah, he made $21 million last year alone, and 8 million of it was considered excess of what he was technically entitled to. So, and then when you see this guy go on TV and he's saying, we can't do anything much more. They do the Republican talking points, right, where they say, oh, we can't pay our workers more. We can't pay them a higher wage because we'll go bankrupt, man. We can't deal with it. They act like they're this like small business, and they're not. They're a big ass giant corporation. They're on the stock market. They got tons, billions upon billions of market capital. Like like there's millions upon millions of shares on just the company's stock price on Ford alone. They've got billions on the New York Stock Exchange, because I see it every day on Robinhood. You cannot tell me that if you guys, pay a little bit more in benefits and pay your people more, higher wages and stuff, you're not going to tell me that you guys are going to go bankrupt. Give me a break. Give me a break. And I like the main UAW president actually has some balls. This guy actually has some balls. Because he didn't just give him the okey doke and just agreed to what Ford was going to give back their counteroffer. But they did what I didn't agree with was that they gave up the cost of living acquisitions or something like that. It's called COLA, COLA, cost of living something. It basically keeps up with the price of inflation and stuff like that with wages, which they gave up on as a concession, which I wouldn't agree with. I don't agree with, but whatever. I wouldn't even have given them room. I would have just kept the strike going. So if they want to keep doing that, we'll just keep striking. Fuck it. But yeah, I mean he's been pretty ballsy, I would say, compared to the last UAW president, which kind of went along with Ford during the 2008 2009 economic recession when union workers had to cut back on their benefits. They lost their wages. They kept their jobs, but they reduced their benefits, their wages, and I don't agree with that because it's just anybody with a brain would be like that's just wrong. And they never gave their benefits back. Even after the economy improved. Almost 20 plus years later. So like I said, I mean Americans deserve better. And all these car manufacturers like I invest in the stock market and I see these companies and I know that a lot of these workers could be paid more. They could be treated better. There could be, workplace safety stuff done. It's funny when they talk about profits, right? You could actually put more money in the business doing all this stuff with the union, and you'd actually be saving your company more money than just worrying about profits. So that's what's so funny about these people doing this. It's like if you focus on the safety, doing everything by the book, ethically, don't discriminate, do everything by the book, by the laws, by all the labor laws, pay your people adequately, the business thrives too, right? Because then they don't have to deal with legal fees, they don't have to deal with lost wages, they don't have to deal with lawsuits, they don't have to deal with strikes and lost productivity every day that their plant is closed down. Like it all just makes sense, right? So that's why I never really understood the whole profits, no matter what type of mentality, with these corporate CEOs. I don't understand it. And I'll never understand it because, like, yeah, they might have went to school, but I still don't feel like they're the smartest person managing the company when it comes to their mentality on stuff. But no, I mean, from my experience though, I've worked in union places. I've worked in a nursing home when I was younger. That was my very first job. It was union. When there was things that could get fixed or done better, there was some things that did get fixed, and other times they didn't. Um, but I mean, I got paid decently, even for part time at the time. In my first job, I was paid almost, I think it was about $14 an hour. And granted, it was part time and it wasn't sustainable. Because I worked 20 hours every 2 weeks, starting out. Like I said, it was my first job. It wasn't anything to get rich, but I eventually saved up $10,000 at that point. Um, and then when I had my apartment, then I basically used it all up and kind of back to square one. But then I brought it all back up again, and yeah. So I regenerated my wealth time and time again. But but anyways though, yeah, I mean it wasn't too bad. Like it wasn't, it was a 4 hour work day for me. Wasn't bad. Um, I mean, and you weren't mandated. That's what was kind of nice too. But they got rid of the union soon after I left that company. Um, but I mean, it was a toxic environment. I didn't like it either. But yeah, they eventually deunionized, and now they're owned by a private company. Um, where else have I worked in a union? Worked in unions other places. And to me, I mean, I know unions are good. I just don't. To me, I think the atmosphere is very. I don't know. I think it's more competitive. I think it's more competitive than a non-union job, but that could just be the environment. I I don't really. I'm not a big fan of. Every time I've been part of a union since then, I've never had good experiences with them. And it's just because they work you to the bone. Yeah, you might be paid good, you might have good benefits, but you're still worked to the bone. And it was weird too because I would, if I worked in a non-union job, I would actually work less hours, you know, and you might be paid less, but you would still work less hours than if you were in a union job. I don't know why. Um, I think with unions, they got the totem pole thing where the seniority, where, if you've been there for 20 years, you don't have to do the work. If it comes down to mandated overtime, it comes down to the young people like me, so you get screwed. So basically incentivize you to be there for like 30 years, and I didn't like that. And yeah, I don't know. I just didn't like the atmospheres that they made. Yeah, I thought it was hyper competitive. It was like you couldn't even joke. Like it was like people would turn you in for anything. It was just weird. I didn't like that more than other places, and that's the only thing I didn't like about union places is it was that strict. Um, but maybe that's just me. Um, but I mean, there's other parts where they do good things. Lots of it is safety. Doing stuff safer, easier. The equipment's newer. Less strain on your body, so that makes sense. But I think they work you more to the bone than you if you don't have a union. But it depends on the industry. Like I said, it depends on the industry. But um, since my first job, every time I've been in a union job, they work you to the bone. 9 times out of 10, they'll mandate you to stay over. Even for a union, I think that the union's got to do something about that. And they won't. They won't because they get union dues. After every check, so they don't really care about that. But that's not to say that I'm bashing unions. I still think unions do the right thing and make a safer work environment and make it a better environment. But from my own experience, no, I'm not a fan of them. I think that they, in my experience, and this is just my experience, I just think I thought the environments were more competitive, more toxic. Everybody was kind of out to get each other, basically, more than a non-union. I don't know why. You can't ask me why, but that's what it felt like to me. Um, and it was weird. Like I felt like I had more job security in a non-union company than a union company, which is weird. Um, don't ask me why, but it's weird. But there is good though to have unions though. Like you can't be discriminated against easily. If you do, you bring it up to your union, representative or whatever. Same thing if it's a disability or anything like that. Age, race, orientation, disability, anything. Um, any of that. It's easier to bring it up to a union. But I have seen, lately, I can't get into this one because I'm pursuing it, but there are some shady unions where they'll threaten to can you if you speak out. But I don't know. I mean, they pay good. I will say that. Like if it's just money and that's all you care about and you don't care about getting work to the bone, then yeah, I mean they're good. They're good paying jobs, no doubt. But every time I've seen a union job, yeah, and I've seen these previous manufacturing facilities on my job applying applications on my phone, they cannot keep people. They can't keep people worse than a non-union job. So let that sink in. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like in a non-union job, I feel like I do better. But the bad part is that they could fire you for any or no reason at all, compared to a union where they have to go through a proceeding, and even then, like they might give you like a warning. Whereas a non-union, they can just fire you because they don't like the color of your shoes, or the color of your tie, or the color of your shirt, or the color of your skin, or whatever it is. It could be any illegal reason, or as long as they don't say that it was for an illegal reason, they can do stuff illegally. And sometimes they can get away with it, and other times they can't. That's why you see wrongful termination suits all the time. Um, but I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it depends on the union too. I don't know. Then other times I've worked for big retail giants, and sometimes during the holidays they'll give you some, nice bonuses. Sometimes I remember working for a big retail giant. I don't want to say who. Starts with W, ends with T. Um, uh, they uh, they had a nice bonus at the end of the year, which was really cool. So they had for Black Friday they would have I think it was like 25 or 30% off everything in the store, no matter what it was. As an employee, it was a one-time purchase, so I think 25 or 30% off everything in the store, no matter what it was. That was for during Black Friday or around there. You can, or no, it was after Black Friday. If you worked on Black Friday or whatever, they'd give you that, which is really cool, and they still do it to this day, I believe. And also, what else did they do? Um, I think at the end of the year they also did a $300. They did a $180 one, I think, and like a $300 credit for like the end of the year bonus. It was basically just a yearly bonus or whatever. I don't know. They would just do it, and you had to work so many hours or whatever. But it was cool. You got $300. Which is cool. And then you had protected paid time off where that wouldn't count as a point against you and blah blah blah. I mean, it was cool, but like again though, like you didn't have a union, so you could be exploited. Um, if you were black or Hispanic or gay or trans or a woman or pregnant or autistic, you could be discriminated against, and they couldn't, you couldn't definitively prove it. You know what I'm saying? They could indirectly discriminate against you. So, um, you just couldn't prove it. You didn't have enough pieces to prove it, even though you knew that was, they do that to a lot of people. And yeah, I mean, they did it to a person that was Hispanic that I knew. He'd work the same job every day, like throwing the truck, and it was like a 3,600 piece truck, which meant 3,600 boxes, big boxes, off of the truck of any type of merchandise, from food to air conditioners. Oh, and then the way that they put the heavy stuff in, it would be past the height of your head, so it would come down and hit you in the fucking head, almost knock you out. Um, so like they had candles and stuff. They put them right at the top. I remember once throwing the truck, doing that, and a bunch of glass candles cracked my fucking head. And they didn't give us any helmets, like no hard hats, nothing. Um, and yeah, I remember that fucking cloud over my fucking head. Other times, if it didn't hit us in the head, it would, fall to the ground and there'd be glass shards all in the truck bed. Like there was no protective equipment, so there was nothing to protect you from getting caught or hurt or whatever for the most part. You know, and their PPE, their personal protective equipment, was very cheap, very very shittily made. Like even their aprons were like paper thin. Like they were made out of rubber, but they were paper thin. Like they weren't very good. But it is what it is. I worked it. I could probably work it again, but I wouldn't volunteer it. Let me just say that. Like I've worked those jobs, so it is a humbling experience. But I to me I thought it was a step up actually because that was my first full time job, but it didn't pay much. It only paid like I don't know what 13 an hour. But that was before everything was $15 an hour, and that was in Pennsylvania, so that was high for Pennsylvania. Because before that it was like $11, which was considered high, but in today's age that's rock bottom. But no, I mean, yeah, I think a lot of these jobs are still, even in New York City, they're behind the times. Like they're still offering like $15 and $16 an hour, and they're thinking that that's like a steal. It's like it's part time plus it's only $16 an hour. Like you can't live off of this shit. So the only jobs that you can really get that are sustainable are manufacturing. Manufacturing of any sort. Like unless you want to become a nurse or something or a teacher. Like no, I mean it's like it's not sustainable. That's why we need more manufacturing plants. That's what we need. Um, which I think that we do have a lot, but we do, but we don't. Like we do, but we need more. I don't know. I feel like we need more. I mean, that's just my opinion. I don't know. But yeah, I think the stock market's all right. It ain't going anywhere. Even when those people strike, it ain't gonna do anything. It ain't gonna harm me. I mean, it might go down, but who cares? Some of the more institutional investors might care that those workers are, going on strike and it's impacting the production of all three of the main, U.S. automobile makers. But I don't. Stellantis, which is like Jeep, not Wrangler. That's a pair of jeans. Jeep, Dodge. They make the Dodge Rams. Jeep. I can't think of the other ones. Alfa Romeo. I don't even know. Is it Alfa Romeo? I know it's like Fiat and all them, but there's a tons of them. Chrysler. That's part of Stellantis, and which I just wish they would have just been called Dodge. I wish they'd be under the Chrysler brand or Dodge brand, but they're not. It's really weird. Um, they're considered a branch of Stellantis, but Stellantis, Ford, and General Motors. Um, which I'm kind of glad that they are striking. I mean, good for them. I mean, they closed. I think they said they're all three of those unions actually closed most of the manufacturing in those plants. There's still some things that they can still do without those workers there, which is like very specific things like maybe stamping stuff or whatever. But it's like it just those three plants closing down shut down 15% of the U.S. automakers for those big three manufacturers. So if I was a union, I wouldn't even budge. I wouldn't even pull back on any of the demands. I'd say either you meet the demands or we're just going to stay on strike and we'll just strike, until all of our funds are gone, or you guys won't have any workers. And you guys will be losing billions every day, which is what I would do. I would be more aggressive if it was up to me. But maybe they're worried. Maybe they're worried about running out that fund of them striking, because each worker is supposed to get a $500 a week uh, strike payment, for missing work. But nah. Oh, that's what that COLA meant. It meant cost of living arrangements. That's what it meant. Cost of living arrangements. That's what that COLA thing I meant earlier in the vlog. But yeah, to me, I think I'm not worried about them unionizing, or excuse me, not unionizing, them striking. Doesn't bother me. Um, in fact, I wanted to do that more often because maybe the stock price will go up even higher for me. It's funny because before the strike, there was the prices were not where I wanted them to be. I was losing money on my share price, right? I was like 40 cents off per share, which is a lot. If you have like 71 shares, that's a lot. That's like $20, $30. And now it's up what, 10, 15 cents, which is still not bad, 10, 15, $20 profit, but still, I want more than that, I want to go to like $15 a share price, which is still not a lot. It's only like $200 above the principal amount, which whatever. Kind of wish it'd be like $30 a share price. But nah, I mean, they I'm okay with them striking. Kind of wish they do it more. Help out the share price. Um, and the share price seemed to go up today with Ford by about 2.5%. So not worried about it. Tobacco went down today. The British American Tobacco Company, which I'm not worried about. It's only like 0.01% or whatever. Very, very minimal. Yeah, I don't know. Some people that are maybe hedge funders or really wealthy people that invest in those industries might care about those strikes and tell them not to keep striking, but I'm okay with it because it kind of upsets the power of the wealthy, that are compensated real well, like the Ford CEO Jim Farley at $21 million a year, um, and like that's a lot of money. I've seen past employers. I've worked with one employer that the CEO of that company only made. Now I don't know if this is accurate. I don't know if it is, but if it is, it said that my one employer CEO, former employer, was like $250,000 a year, which that didn't sound right, but maybe it is. And if it is, that CEO is very underpaid. um, I think that they deserve more than that, considering how much they make every year, which was like billions. I think they made like 8 billion. Their product would make $8 billion in revenue every year, all of their plants. So let that sink in. So yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. Just that was kind of cool though. Like you stay patient enough. Your stocks will come back around. They do. They come back around, and it's full circle. I mean, I'm still down in off the principal amount by about $300, which I'm not worried about because I'm not taking it out anytime soon. But um, you know, you just got to be patient. Those stocks that I didn't think that would come around for months, they finally came around after 2 months. So just patience. Same thing with AMC. Like I'm, only $2 away from the share price of it. Equaling out about $190 in the negative with that one stock, which that's not a lot. That only needs two more dollars and it'll even out. $2 more in the share price. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Peace.